Hello, everyone. And it's Lena back again this week for this week's episode of the Financial Planner Live podcast. And this week I am joined by Lena Patel, Chartered Financial Planner and Managing Director, ISJ Independent Financial Planning. So thanks very much for coming on, joining me this afternoon, Lena. How are you feeling?
Oh, very good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I am very good. Thanks for asking. So as I like to start with the more, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm a chartered financial planner based in Leicester. So I help mainly people that are going through a relationship breakdown or find themselves single after a bereavement, and retiring couples make their dreams come true when they look at their finances, really, and hopefully give them the confidence to start living life in a more fulfilled way.
Yeah, excellent. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your career journey today? Obviously, you're a managing director, you own your own firm. So how did you get to this point as such?
So I left school with no A-levels, unfortunately, so I failed them miserably. So I got a job in Barclays, and then I did various roles within Barclays, including stuffing, back in the day, envelopes with statements, because it wasn't automated then, did cashiering, did some regular payment work, and then over the years, worked myself up and did sort of branch manager, went to big corporate, a relationship manager. And then I applied for a job as a premier manager and didn't get it. And at the time, there was a guy called Steve in the financial planning department. He said, "Oh, why don't you come and join me?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not clever. I can't take exams." And he had a team of 16 men at the time, so no females and no Asian people. But he said, "No, I think you're really good. I think you're really good. I think it's great for you." I said, "No, I'm single. I've got 2 children. I can't do this." But anyway, so I started that. I went for that job, and then I got the job in the end. So I think Steve had belief in me when I didn't have belief in myself. So that was in 2008. So I worked at Barclays for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was approached by Santander. Again, a bit of a big move, because I thought Barclays would have been a job for the rest of my life, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because final salary pension, all those sorts of things, great company car, great salary. And I had a laptop, which was great, so I thought, I can manage children, and it'd be all, and I was working really late hours. So when I went to Santander, I said, "Oh yeah, you can come to us, but we don't have any laptop or anything. You should go to work in the branch 9 to 5. And I thought, "Oh my gosh." But I think at the time it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It gave me work-life balance back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was finishing at 5 and I was going home and had a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for 5 years, and then I went to work for SJP for a short period of time, which was a bit of a challenge. But 5 months later, I decided to set up my own business, and that's where ISJ was for. So ISJ are the first initials of my 3 children, and dream became to seed, was took a stone, and it became reality. So that was it, really.
Wow. So I think if we go back to all the way to the beginning of your career journey, if we talk about Steve, this individual that sort of gave you that opportunity as such, and you looked at that financial planning team, and we will talk a lot about sort of ethnic minorities within the industry during this podcast and things like that. But how did you feel, as you said, there was no, Asian ethnic minorities within that team? How did you feel? Did you feel like there potentially wasn't a place for you there, or?
I think it was. I think when people look at me, I guess they don't see colour. I think it's just they can see Lena. But for me, I see it as something. I'm different to all these people in the script. But they must be different. And in order to fit in, you try and be a certain way. And at the time, I just thought, I can't do these. All these people they've got partners at home, or they've got children, they haven't got children. They haven't got the challenges that I had at the time. I had 2 very young children, and I just got divorced. So it was very difficult, but he never saw that. He gave me the power and the belief, and I borrowed some of his belief in myself. So I went down to London on an assessment, and there was 2 other guys that I went down with, and they'd already got their qualification.
Mm-hmm. And
I think when I failed my A-levels, I thought, that was it. I was never going to study again. Lo and behold, it became a whole degree level of studying, but that's a different story. But so for me at the time, I can't do it because I couldn't see myself in that team. So I've never seen someone like me in the team, not female, not Asian. So it was just interesting at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just went for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot of intersectionality between yourself, but lots of different factors that obviously relate to your experience as such. You're not just a female financial advisor, but you're a female financial advisor from an ethnic minority. So you've got potentially two barriers of such that we sort of discuss. Do you think you faced any barriers sort of due to this?
Only in yourself, in your own mind, in your own sensitive beliefs. I don't think out there is the people are so encouraging at the moment. They're encouraging more women, people from any underrepresented minority, whether it be LGBT or disabled people, or we're trying to be more diverse, inclusive. But I think sometimes it's stuck within your own head that you limit yourself because you don't fit in or you can't see anyone that looks like you. So you think, well, that's their job, that's what they do, and I don't do that. So I think it's your own beliefs that stop you, I think.
Yeah. And we've discussed this previously, wasn't it? It was a belief to feel like you almost had to fit into a certain box and you had to make yourself mold into a certain box to be successful or to fit in. Do you mind explaining or elaborating a little bit more about that?
So yeah, when I first set out, I felt that education, all your exams, all that really mattered because that wasn't really clever. I wasn't embracing my own individuality and what I brought to the team or as a person. So for me, it was very much trying to fit in with all the others, trying to be working late, having all the commitments and just doing everything over and above that I needed to, always trying to prove yourself sometimes because you had to go that extra bit more to do what the others could because you were trying to run a home. And this is probably very stereotypical, but most financial advisors, when I was doing it, because I've had a partner at home that wasn't working.
Yeah. And
they were just coming into work and that was it really. And I think when we were doing it in the banking world, it was very much sales and target oriented. It was all levels, tables, rankings, commission. So all those feelings within you, you're working over and above to be top of that table because that's what I wanted to be. I think I was, wanted to be the best of a good bunch.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone sort of has got that drive in them as such to want to be the best. But definitely when we talk about, your position as a working mum and stuff like that, you have got children at home and you potentially have faced different barriers in that element that other people do, especially having so many sort of stereotypically white, male, older financial planners out there. You are in a very different position as such. And you have posted on LinkedIn and speaking about sort of racism and stuff like that. And as you've just touched on, it's not necessarily so much that of not just let alone facing it, but also, having that belief within yourself. How did you overcome that then? You're talking about you always felt like you had to fit potentially into a certain box. Lots of other people had belief in you. You took that belief and sort of ran with it, but potentially for other members in the audience sort of listening to this or watching this that have that feeling like that they don't fit in or they don't have a place within the profession, how would you sort of mentally get over that hurdle?
You don't need to fit in. Everybody has their own skills, their own mindset. Most of my clients don't even look at the colour of my skin. They don't even think twice. But I had to find my own belief. So I think it was important to me to accept who I was and that I was good at what I was, not try and keep striving to be something else. I think for me, there was nobody I saw. This sounds a bit cheesy, I suppose, but nobody saw that looked like me and think, oh yeah, I can aspire to be like that because all the good IFAs or were of a certain kind, and you felt you had to be like that. But for me, I'm enough to be good at what I do. Clients are very good in explaining that. We've done some videos recently, and when you hear what your clients have to say about you, you understand that you don't need to be anything else. Mm-hmm. The fact that we are of an aging profession, the average age is 55 as advisors, we've got a great opportunity to encourage more and more younger people to come into the profession. And I think for me, when we spoke earlier, was about in an Asian culture, if you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're a lawyer, they were all recognised professions. But for me, I don't think my mum still really gets what I do. She knows that I'm good at what I do. She knows that I'm in papers and stuff. But, it's not a recognised profession, but it is degree level. So I'm a fellow, had a graduation, but all those things, when you're younger, you don't know the profession. It's only the one career, I think, that you have that can use a lot of skills. You can use people skills, you can change people's lives, you can influence people's decisions and help them come to good decisions in their life and transform people's lives, which I never knew when I was in the bank. In a way, I was just helping clients make money, but now I'm able to help them fulfill their lives, which is just an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Exactly. So valuable, the profession and what it does, you add so much value into people's lives. And as you just said, I think there is sort of potentially this viewpoint within Asian communities to sort of push your children to be, as you said, doctors, lawyers, because they do add value to people's lives. Like, lawyers in terms of, supporting people through those legal battles, doctors in terms of sort of medically, but financial planners enable people to meet financial freedom. They allow people to fulfill their short-term and long-term financial goals. So it's definitely, a really rewarding career where you can really add value, noticeable value to people's lives. You can change people's lives in multiple different ways. So how do we then encourage more people from sort of ethnic minority backgrounds, potentially at school level, to step into the financial planning profession? So there are more people from ethnic minorities within the industry.
A difficult question. I think with the diversity on everybody's mind at the moment, we're trying to encourage more diversity in all professions. But I think we need more of us. That's the thing. It's people that are able to support the profession, shout about the profession. I hate posting on social media. Absolutely disgusting. But the reality of the interaction I get with posts is from other people who will reach out and say, well, what was your journey? You're really good at what you do. I don't see it like that. But it's that being able to think, okay, even if you help one extra person every day with it, whether with their lives or with their career, or whether it be just being able to apply for a job, think about it as a career. I think that's important. It's spreading the news, the good news that we do for clients, because we don't get a lot of that at the moment. We're getting a lot of negative press, but we never get a lot of positive press around the lives that we do change.
Mm-hmm. And in regards then to sort of, as you just touched on, you have an exposure as an ethnic minority financial planner, speaking to people during the profession or speaking to people that might be out of the profession. Do you think having an increased presence of ethnic minority financial planners will encourage more people from ethnic minorities to join the profession?
Yeah, I think it will. The more people you see out there doing that as a profession, it's not seen a lot of people don't see it as a job or a career that they want to go down when you go to careers fairs at school and stuff like that. So I think that's where we need to be started, is talking at careers fairs and the good old conversation we need to have about what you want to do next. And people don't see that financial planning is a great career to go into. But I also think that it would encourage more people from ethnic minorities to get advice as well. On the flip side, there's more clients to think, okay, yeah, I can go to this person because they might understand me culturally, which I hadn't appreciated before, because I had a few calls recently for ladies and men that are going through divorce, but I said, oh, well, rang you or found you because I felt that you'd understand me culturally, because you understand the challenges of maybe divorce, and I'm divorcing not just him or her, but it's a family we're divorcing. And having been in that situation, you can empathise and understand where somebody is coming from, and you have got a lot to add, I think, in that way.
Yeah, definitely. So there's two sides of this coin here, really, isn't there? It's the fact that having more financial planners from ethnic minorities will, in the long run, I personally believe, obviously I think you agree with me from our conversation so far, seeing more ethnic minority financial planners may potentially encourage people, like when the same position that you were in back in the day, to think, well, they're having a lucrative career. Obviously, I can do that as well. I think there's statistics that show across the board, whether it be with talking about diversity and exclusivity across the board, may that be with like female financial planners, may that be with ethnic minority financial planners, seeing other people in those senior positions within your firm encourages you to sort of strive for the same, because you think, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And maybe if they weren't as represented in those positions, you then on the flip side don't think you're able to do it yourself. But yeah, it's the other side of the coin as well. It's, I think, having those financial planners from ethnic minorities then encourages people from ethnic minorities to seek the advice. And it's funny that you talk about that cultural thing, because and we discussed it previously a lot of the time. And, you said it before with your mum not necessarily knowing what you're still doing. It's a bit of a viewpoint that sort of property is king as such, not necessarily the financial planning process of all the different elements and the complexities that we know. So I think it's definitely a case of having those people in those positions will also encourage people to come speak to you and break that sort of money taboo, because as you just touched on, you have that cultural awareness. And I think people are sort of looking for someone when they're going to have these potentially honest, slightly personal conversations, to do it with someone which they feel understands them.
Yeah, I just, we used the company to do some interviews for clients and testimonial videos. And she said, I just was so worried about going into the meeting because I thought they'd think I was stupid. And I think that's it. People think just because they may not have the answer, feel stupid, they don't ask the question. But I think if you feel comfortable going to somebody who is embracing of culture and can answer questions, even in the language barrier sometimes, and stop you sometimes, and then that's also good. Just so, and also for me, it's a really easy route to get a really good career, because ultimately you don't have to go to university.
Yeah.
You don't have the added cost of a university degree, but you have the impact and the ability to make a great career and make a great lifestyle for yourself.
Yeah. So that touched on something that we spoke about previously. So you didn't go to university, as you said, you'd done your A levels and you thought they didn't maybe go as you map them out, and you think, well, that's it for me. That's my education, my learning done. But, you've got a fellowship, am I right? And I was looking online, and like a fellowship is the equivalent of a university degree. So you have a university degree without going to uni, which is amazing. And I didn't even know this till you mentioned it to me, and I looked online. Do you think that is such an achievement? Do you think that needs to be more sort of recognised across the board?
Definitely. I think it does. I think because I think whilst I just set up my business, but again, I felt that, to be successful, I had to be fellow to be successful. And I did do it, and I did set up the business at the same time, finish off my studies to become chartered. It does set you apart. I think it does mean that you've got the passion and the drive to do more for clients. It's not the be all and end all, but ultimately, the diploma, the original level 4 diploma, is probably only 6 exams. And then multiple choice. So I think that makes life a little bit easier if you're not wanting to leave home, go to university. You don't like studying in the old format of having to write a dissertation, all those sorts of things. I think this is a good opportunity for people to explore. But I think it's having the opportunity to speak to people about it in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as you just touched on then, university isn't for everyone. Lots of people don't want to travel from home, and also, going to university, it's $9,000 a year just solely on your, to actually do the course, never mind how much money you're spending on your rent and your food and all the essentials. I think definitely, and we all talk about the level 4 diploma, and it is a massive achievement. Being a chartered financial planner is gold standard, such an achievement. But I don't think it's recognised, or as I said, I didn't realise how the equivalent that it had sort of at university level. I definitely do think that as a statistic needs to be more sort of renowned across the board. So individuals know, you are going to be super qualified and you're going to have all these amazing things, qualifications and all the technical knowledge behind it. And you don't have to go to university to do that. You don't have to go to university to have a super lucrative, successful career in an industry.
I think, and there's definitely going to be a big gap for advice as well, because as advisors are retiring, you've got more and more people, and younger people are more engaged with finances and talking about money. I think people don't like to really talk about money, but now we're with the sort of mental health and anxiety and these stresses that we have. I think it's important that money is a big driver within these conversations, these issues that people are experiencing. So if we could talk more openly about it, I think it's great for everyone.
Yeah. How, because as you said, I've spoken about this previously on the podcast, like money is quite a taboo subject, and it can be. How do you encourage more people, especially maybe people from sort of ethnic minority communities, to then have that conversation about money?
Start at childhood. I think you've got to talk about it in school. I think my big thing is teaching everybody to be independent and not codependent.
Yeah.
Whether that's you're living at home, whether you're in a relationship, whatever your situation is making sure that you are financially independent and not codependent, understanding your earning capacity, your expenses from a very young age. I think that's really important, because ultimately we're going to go to this digital world where my youngest, he doesn't think he really touches and feels money anymore since he was born, because everything's Apple Pay, Apple Watch, contactless. I don't think he really understands what money is, because he just thinks, oh yeah, you've got Apple Pay, you've got your phone with you. Even the ice cream man takes Apple Pay. So he can't buy the door when the doorbell rings anymore. He just runs off with a card, but it's got, and just goes off. So I think it's really important that we understand what money is, and that is going back to basics of talking about it in school and education, and then moving that and not being fearful even if you get into a relationship, talking about what your expectations are and how things are going to work, because I never did it really, I don't think.
Yeah.
In my early days.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, do a lot of your experiences to date sort of tie in with the education that you like to give back? Obviously, we speak a lot about, as you just said, making sure that you're financially independent. To potentially lots of the clients that come visit you have had issues because they have been very codependent.
I think it is particularly with women that come to me that may not have had a grip on their finances in their relationship because they've been busy nurturing children, their careers may have taken a backseat. And it's important that those roles are still going to be always there, because men can't have children. But it's understanding that when you're going through that process, that you have an honest conversation with your partner and saying, okay, well, I'm doing this at the moment, but how's that going to impact my future? Because I think we're seeing more and more relationship breakdowns, and we're seeing more and more women that are going, or men that are going into situations because men feel that they should be providing for their children, but they can't do that because their own lives are being sacrificed. So I think it's that conversation that needs to be had on earlier on in the relationship, which people don't tend to have for some reason.
Yeah. So do you think it's all about that initial conversation then? So for potentially females out there that might be in the audience that feel like they don't have as much as a grip on their finances, may that be due to the part of relationship they're in? May that due to be like them currently not being in work and their partner being the worker or anything like that? What advice would you give them?
You've got to try and broach the conversation, have the conversation, and just be open and honest about how you're feeling. Because ultimately, the other person probably hasn't got a clue about how you're feeling about it. And I think that's ultimately where we always start. We're always assuming that they know how you feel, or that they are going to always think the worst. But it's always a true false, I don't know. And it's making sure you understand that the assumptions that you're making about that conversation, the answers you're going to get are not there. Have an open conversation. This is how I'm feeling about this set of circumstances. What can we do to make it work? And 9 times out of 10, you can just work it out. But the more I think the years go by, it just becomes those foundations that you tell yourself that story, and then that story becomes reality. Mm-hmm. I think that's where those self-limiting beliefs have got to stop and think, okay, yeah, let's have a conversation, see where we can move forward, because that's better for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And definitely your experience to date have made a play in sort of the people that you attract or the people that you give advice to as such. Do you notice then, well, I was going to say this, do you notice then that you ended up having like targeted a specific audience, or a certain clientele sort of gets attracted to you due to sort of your experiences as such?
Yeah, so when I first set up, I was very much, I spoke to a website developer and they said, oh yeah, you've got some niche. And I couldn't niche. I thought, oh, what? I need to make money. I need to make help clients. I need to build a business. I need to be everything to everybody. But quite quickly what I realized was I was attracting just mainly single women because there's very few women that do the job. So sometimes, yeah, if you're at that stage in a relationship where you have broken down and you've lost your partner, and you just don't want to talk to men at that point because all men are awful or whatever.
Yeah.
For that short period of time. So, and sometimes a lot of my clients feel that men are condescending, talk very technical about the intricacies of investments, but we what want to be told is that it's going to be okay. It's going to be bumpy. There's going to be challenges. You're going to go through all these emotions, but ultimately, at the end of it, if you do these things, you will come out better. And that's really talking about children and all those steps that people go through when these things happen to you. But having that experience and also talking about that experience for me has really helped because it's helped my clients have faith in me talking about something I've experienced and understood and come out the other end better for it, really.
Yeah.
And thriving.
Yeah. And I think
I never thought I'd be able to say.
Yeah. And we always talk about how, it's very stereotypical and very cliche to be like, a female is going to want a female financial advisor, someone from an ethnic minority is going to want someone from an ethnic minority. But I think you do underestimate how much you do just want someone that empathizes with your experiences, and not just someone that empathizes it from the outside, but someone that fully appreciates everything that you've been through. It's like sharing your pain, someone that actually understands the highs and the lows. And I think in the position that you are yourself, showing people as well, as you said, that it is going to get better. It is going to be okay.
Yeah, I think I had a client this morning and she had been through a breakup only in October of last year, and she was 55, she wasn't married, she'd got a young child, there was 11. And the reality is that she's still in the grieving stage, but she didn't really understand that it's a loss. And when I went through it, I couldn't understand those feelings really at the time, but I do think 3 years on, you do grow, you do thrive. It is probably, it's a journey that you're on. And for her, it was like, well, I could say to her, I've been through that. I've been through that stage of not being able to make a decision, procrastination, living in survival mode. But you are able to come to the other end if you persevere and accept that and go through that period then. And we coach them through that process. And that's part of the good thing about being a financial planner and also a financial coach is that you're able to coach those clients. And she left saying, I felt it was a bit of a therapy session. And I thought, well, as long as you've taken some good things away from it, then it's going to be okay. But sometimes you just need someone in your corner that's got your back and that has belief in you, because you need to borrow some belief sometimes when you haven't got your own.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on almost it being like a therapy session. I guess you just touched on 2 key things that are very important. So how would you differentiate like the financial coaching side to the financial planning side?
Coaching is making or supporting clients to make decisions and talk about money and helping them to come over money blocks that they may potentially have. And those can be rooted to when you're a childhood, but you've just gone through that process, telling ourselves the same story without actually stopping and thinking about what's going on. And they've influenced to a great extent, really, because the client had this point, she needed some coaching, actually needed some planning. She's got lots of pension, she's got lots of savings, she's got an ISJ problem. But ultimately, she couldn't make a decision because she was so worried. But helping that client through that journey, being able to coach them to a position where they can think clearly, having some conversations with people in her life that needed to be had, is where they can start to make clear decisions about their future. And that's what I would say, yeah.
Yeah, that must be so valuable as well, because not only are you, as a financial planner, supporting people with their sort of their general, like what you usually do is like their pensions and investments and stuff like that, but you're actually giving people the power to have financial freedom in the future. Yeah,
it's important. I mean, I think she left and she said, I feel a bit lighter, and I think it's that feeling of being a bit lighter every day and chipping away. I think, there's when relationships break down, there's a lot of stuff that you go through, which when you're teenagers, you can get over quite quickly. But when you're older and you're facing potentially having to go into rented accommodation and all those worries that you may have, they're really difficult to deal with, and particularly when you don't want to talk about them to friends, maybe family. So having someone that's in your corner and values and has the same values that you do are important about it. Because we don't want it to be a fight all the time. That's not the right.
Yeah, and it's funny how we used the term therapy earlier on, because I once read a book and it was talking about how when you go to therapy, usually you go because you have a presenting problem. So, for example, you've had a relationship breakdown or someone has passed away, and that is your presenting issue as such. And then behind it, you've got to unravel everything else that's sort of got you to that point in time, or that is all involved with the feeling. I guess an element of what you do is similar to that. Someone will come to you with a presenting problem, may that be a relationship breakdown, may that be a bereavement, and then you work alongside them to not just eliminate that presenting issue, but support them with everything else that's going on in the background.
Yeah, we tell our stories. It tells our story when little and was growing up, had a client who told her, but her dad told her, you've got to save for the rainy day. I save for the rainy day. Father's died, she's 65, she's retiring. She's still saving for the rainy day, but she's got £500,000 in the bank. That rainy day really isn't going to come because we've done a cash flow model. She knows, but sometimes giving herself the permission to accept the rainy day is not going to come. I don't save anymore. It's really tough because she's told herself that for probably 60 years because that's why Dad told her to work hard, And it's interesting because she just couldn't do it for a while. But over years, you chip away at them and she'll ring, am I going to be okay? Yes, she can be fine. Building long-standing relationships with clients, and it's important, I think, that they've got someone around for the longer term, and hopefully one of the children will take over in the future. Who knows? None of them want to know at the moment. They're all busy doing their own thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important that financial planning incorporates all these different elements, and I do think loads of more people are getting not just involved with the financial planning element side of things, but the financial coaching side. I don't know if you agree, but we always talk about this holistic financial planning model, which incorporates all these different elements. And I do think, potentially as the industry keeps on moving forward, financial coaching as much as financial planning needs to be part of that.
Definitely. I think they both go hand in hand. And I think whilst lots of people do, even if you just do financial coaching, there'll always be needs for financial planners to complete the regulated advice and to help clients make those decisions. Because those decisions that they make at that crucial moment have to stand for the rest of their lives in the longer term and sustain income and their legacy for their futures as well. So it is a great way forward. I think we're seeing more and more coaches and courses available to help people provide the advice and go through the process themselves, because a lot of the coaches, I went through my own financial coaching journey when I became a financial coach, and it was life-changing, absolutely life-changing, because I had to keep calm and carry on mentality, and I never really stopped and understood why I was behaving the way I was, and it was due to what I've been through when I was a younger child and the way I dealt with money then. So it's amazing how far that does go back, and it sort of carves your pathway sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also talking about you've obviously started the financial mentor coaching side of things. You've also been doing quite a lot of networking recently, which is really nice to see sort of on LinkedIn. Have you been doing networking sort of not just is it just within sort of financial planning, the events that you've gone, or are you sort of networking with people in different industries as well?
No, so I started networking when I started 5 years ago, and then over the years I've not done as much. But when I took this office on about 2 months ago, it was to build more of a presence in the community. So I live not far from where I am at the moment, and so the start was around the corner. So where we in collaboration with the solicitors, I sort of thought, well, it's good to start up something locally. So it is just anybody in the community that wants to come along and make new connections. So I think it's just sometimes when you start a business or you're a sole trader or whatever situation you're in, you might have a question. Sometimes you get isolated. So when we have the morning meeting, it's great just to people come along. They can see there's like-minded people there. You can ask a question, but it's for all professions or whatever you want to make new connections. And it was an interesting one. I thought, oh my God, what if no one turns up at the first round? So it's really successful because just on the pandemic, people want to be face-to-face networking.
Yeah, definitely.
People, and there's lots of women there, which is great to see because it encourages more people to come along. If you can see someone like yourself again that's there, that does have their own business, that does have children, but it can be done. It's just a challenge.
Oh, fab. So do you think it adds lots of value? Do you think I also guess networking outside of the industry must be great as well, because you learn from all different experiences, not just from people within your industry, but what kind of value do you think that networking adds to yourself?
I think it raises profiles for the profession because it just sets you apart from somebody that might go there and just talk about, well, I can get you this return, invest in this stock. I tend not to go down to those conversations.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you can just maybe talk about what you do and how you help a client that week, what your story of that week is. And it's interesting because you are different to people. And there's a lot of financial advisors and financial planners, and it's the differentiation between what makes you different to the people around you. And also being able to share ideas with people. So I've met lots of people at these. We've done 2 so far. So we do one a month on the first Thursday of every month. And it just brings people together. Last week there was somebody there that was decided to give up. She was doing counselling, and she said to give the notice in at the school that she's doing counselling and set up on her own. So it's amazing that you can think, well, if you can do it, she says, well, I'm going to give it a go. And I've been talking to her for a while, but it's just nice to know that you can help and support people that are on the same journey as you and give somebody else a lending hand. And that self-belief, again, I go on about it, but sometimes you need to borrow some self-belief. I've borrowed a lot over the years, and I think I hadn't realised it. But I think you need the support sometimes.
Now you're giving that self-belief back. Isn't it amazing? Like the full cycle that you go in. We started off this episode of the podcast talking about how Steve let you borrow that little bit of self-belief off him, and now you're out here, giving it back to people, showing them that sort of, what I can do, you can also do. I think an amazing theme throughout this whole podcast has been sort of this element of community and this element of, being a trailblazer as such. I think by putting yourself out there like you have done, like obviously you said, you don't like making LinkedIn posts and things like that, but by putting yourself out there and by talking about your story, you are encouraging not just ethnic minorities, but females to not only take a step into the profession themselves, but to also access the advice and know that they are in a position to be in the position you are in, and also that, they are in a position to be comfortable to speak to you about all their issues. May that be things that they've not spoken to anyone about before or felt uncomfortable speaking to people about previously.
Yeah, I think, it is about the money you can earn, and it's a very lucrative position to be in. Of the first 5 years have been tough, and I became single in between that. So it has been a challenge. You've got to pay your mortgage, you've got to pay your bills. I'm a directly authorised firm as well, so it's all the compliance that goes with it. So it's not an easy role by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a very rewarding role, and you can build a really great life from it and help clients, which is the best bit about it, really. And when clients say that you're transforming their lives, then it's amazing feeling. I can't sort of write it in a...
Yeah, it must be amazing to work so closely with people to transform those lives, and especially what you're doing, using your experiences to help other people, using difficult emotions that you've gone through and working with people to go through that are going through the same emotions to come to like a really positive outcome, and being able to use your experiences culturally as well to support other people must be so rewarding. And it just goes to show, any individual out there, disability, sexuality, ethnicity, gender, you can have a really lucrative, successful career within financial planning. And as we touched on from the beginning, there is no need for you to fit in. It's the complete opposite. You can use your difference and what makes you special to go out there and support other people.
Yeah, I think that's it. Lots of clients, most of my clients come through a Google search and they just see a picture. And I think even when I set up my website 5 years ago, Phil said to me, "Oh, you've got a specific picture on there." I said, "Oh no," and originally it was the London skyline. He said, "Well, what does that mean? You don't even work in London." And people are buying you because I didn't want people to know who I was, but without that, there isn't a business. And I think it's important to embrace who we are. But it takes time. It's not easy, but yeah.
And obviously you've gone through the journey when you felt like you've had to fit in or act in a certain way, or you've got to be a square box to be successful. I think, Lena, you've been an excellent guest, to demonstrate to people out there that, you're going to be successful by being who you are. And by being who you are, you're going to attract that audience that not only is going to, as we touched on, such a lucrative, successful industry, and you can have a great career. Not only that, but it's going to allow you to really add value to other people's lives, and, use your experiences to better the lives of others, essentially.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's an achievement. I think it takes a while to accept, but it is a success. And I think when I put the office on and saw the name above the door, it's been amazing, but it's lovely. Yeah, it's great.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your journey this afternoon with us, Lena. It's such an encouraging podcast. I think, it goes to show how, to promote exclusivity and diversity, we need to have amazing financial planners from ethnic minorities and, who are different genders like yourself, to demonstrate, you can have such a successful career within the industry. And I think trailblazers like yourselves, as we've discussed, are not going to encourage people that might not potentially get financial advice, but in the long run, having people like yourselves on the podcast in positions like yourself is only going to encourage more and more people from these backgrounds to become financial planners themselves. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Lovely. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.